to the Fireside Chat. My name is Schuyler.
I'm Keelin.
And today we are talking about happiness, and specifically experience, because just like last week, we're talking about one of the greatest paradoxes of our time. We live in one of the wealthiest countries in the world, in the United States of America, and yet a lot of people live day by day very unhappy, unfulfilled, and progressively more and more anxious. And
depressed.
Yeah, I'm depressed too. And the happiness ladder has these 5 rungs: stuff, experience, self-improvement, connection, and finally mindfulness or gratitude. And last week we talked about stuff, and today we're talking about the second rung of the ladder, and that's experience. So we're going to be talking about like why experiencing life can lead to happiness and how to improve our lives with experiences, and then also some challenges that come with that, similar to how we talked about challenges that came about with stuff. So I think some of and going off of like last week's podcast, we talked about, you can't buy happiness with like things, like you can't buy things to fill that void in your life. And then people often look to experiences instead. So they say, don't buy things, buy experiences, like concert tickets or traveling or a night out with friends, anything like that. Like that's an experience. And so oftentimes what people will say is like, experiencing things is a better way to spend your time and money than just purchasing items, which is true, because that leaves like a lasting impression on you. As we said like last week, if you have your base needs met plus a little bit more, like if you can traveling is gonna be a better use of your time and money, and like going out with friends is gonna be a better use of your time and money than like buying more trinkets at a store.
Yeah, and just like, I mean, not even like buying things. Obviously, a lot of things like buying experiences rather than buying stuff, going to a concert and whatever, or going out to dinner with your family and whatnot. But a lot of experiences happen without spending any money at all.
That's
and just like
too.
Hanging out on a Saturday night with your friends at home watching a TV show or something, and there's always like something that happens that either makes you laugh or makes you feel an emotion that then you go on to like tell that story. It becomes a story. Like today is Easter for us, and we were sitting around the table talking about old stories from our parents' childhood, and specifically our mom, they have a story from the 4th of July where fireworks went off in the hallway inside their house, and everybody freaked out, and it was like our grandma was trapped in the bathroom, and there was this whole
classic family
story. Like this like crazy experience that they had, that like now they look back and they just like, I'm sure in the moment it was really scary and freaky, and they're like, oh my gosh, our 4th of July is ruined, all our fireworks went off, and in the hallway
the house gonna like catch on
fire. Yeah, it's like it's this crazy thing that happens, but now they look back on it and they're laughing, and it's like
nostalgic.
Yeah,
it's funny. So like experiences forge memories that we can reflect upon as we age.
Yeah, and even those like weird memories that you'd think like, oh my gosh, that's crazy, something crazy that happened, and then becomes a very good, fond memory that happened, even though it was something that was super stressful at the time.
Yeah,
a bunch of fireworks going off in the house that then you have to clean up, but you get over like the little details that happened, and it's like moral of the story, like big picture, it's like that was a crazy funny thing that happened.
And I think as we're as scientists are studying memories more, I think that they found, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like this is what I've heard anyway, that like memories are something that we relive over and over and over again because of synapses. Like when the brain decides to keep those memories, we have to like re-experience them in our brain to kind of keep it. It's not like a file folder, so like by talking and thinking and reminiscing about those memories, like it keeps them alive.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fun experience for people anyway, because it leads to the next rung of the ladder, and that's, or not the next one, but the next one up after that, and that's connection between people. So that's a way to like improve that happiness. But like you were saying with stressful memories, like experiences are complicated. Like you can go to a concert and it's your favorite band, but something really bad might happen there too. So whenever people are like, oh yeah, go and experience something, like you could go anticipating a good time, but you can also have bad experiences too, with other people, with an event, something bad happened.
It gets rained out, or, you know.
Right. And so that eventually leads to the question, does the thing that we're talking about in the last podcast or the experience make you happy, or whatever, the person or whatever you're engaging with, does that thing make you happy? Or do you respond with happiness to the thing or the experience or the person, or, you know, carrying on?
Yeah.
Like, do you choose to feel happiness or respond with a positive attitude even when things are going wrong? Like, how does happiness work in our day-to-day? Because you can live like a really good life, but then you can still be miserable. Or you can have like really terrible experiences happen to you, but you can choose to be a happy and positive person. Like, I've seen those situations. So like, do we choose, or how does that happen? How do we choose to be happy?
Yeah, like I was saying before we started the podcast, it's about like you could go to dinner and like have a really great time and you're laughing with your friends, and then there's like a baby crying a couple tables over that's just like throwing a tantrum, and you could choose to let that make your experience bad and like ruin your dinner, or you could choose to continue to be happy and just be like that, and block out the loud baby from your memory. It's like it doesn't have to be, the bad experience doesn't have to be the majority of that experience in your memory.
It doesn't need to taint everything else.
Yeah.
Or like babies in church service, for instance. Like, our minister is really great, and like most people I think would agree when babies are making cooing noises or they're going blah blah blah, you know, they're babbling and stuff, and it can be a little distracting. But I know that our minister has pointed out, and like this is how I feel too, that like that's the sound of life.
Yeah.
And that's a happy sound. So even though it's like a little distracting, like babies don't know like when they should quote unquote be quiet. So like it's not a bad sound, it's a positive sound. But people who get frustrated by that, I'm like, you're making yourself unhappy. That baby didn't make you unhappy.
Yeah.
You are responding to this negatively because you don't like it for X, Y, Z reason. Instead of looking at it in a positive frame, you're going to look at it in a negative one, and then you're going to make yourself unhappy, which is really sad.
And even not just talking about like babies. I mean, there could be any kind of noise distraction with any kind of, like if there's a special needs adult or child in like a church service or around, it's like there might not know what noises to or not make, and they might have an outburst or something, and that's like, it's not something that should affect your experience or like become like make it bad in your eyes, like, oh, right, this entire church service is ruined now because for 30 seconds
and some people
something was going
think
on.
That they don't, I don't, it's just
wow. It's like you don't come out of something being like, I was like, oh, I was in a concert and then there's like baby started crying or whatever.
Or
it's like,
even to leave like babies at the door. Like, what if it's two people who are knowingly, like Dad was complaining about some people who were being like really loud during a house concert when people were supposed to be listening to the musicians. Like, they were knowingly being rude.
mm-hmm.
And like, obviously that's something that he brought up in conversation when he was explaining what happened, and that was a negative part of his experience at the concert. But like, overall his experience was positive, and it was more that he was just like disappointed that people were being rude.
Yeah.
But
that's also,
he still had a good experience.
What I was getting at is that like when you come out of a good experience, you shouldn't be talking about the negatives. You should be talking about, oh, I heard this song and it was wonderful and whatever. You don't want to be like, you don't want to have to say like, oh, this negative thing happened. It's like, that happened, and that's more you like complaining about just like a little thing that happened during it, rather than like looking at how good the experience was overall for you.
Right.
Like, the positives definitely outweigh the negatives, but if you focus on the negatives, then it's going to become negative for you. You're going to get super frustrated and stressed out.
That's why I think memories and therefore experiences are a complicated form, because like, yeah, we can feel nostalgia, or it can be like, that was a fantastic experience. But when we have negative experiences, it can get really complicated where like we don't know if we should remember something in a positive or negative way. Or you can be like, France was a lot of fun except for these things. So like, was France fun? And then you have to disseminate and like parse through all of that, because that travel experience was like good and bad. But I also think like this is why meditation is so important, because when you're meditating, like a lot of kind of more anal people, and if you don't know how to meditate, you may like react this way, because meditation, you're thinking like, oh, it needs to be like peaceful, quiet environment, like that's ideal. But when you meditate and something happens, what are you supposed to do? You're not supposed to react to the thing happening. You're just supposed to like acknowledge it and let it go. When you become frustrated by something that might be like trying to ruin your peacefulness, like you're not meditating anymore.
Yeah, like if a dog barks or something.
Yeah. If you're truly meditating and you're in a meditative state, you're just going to be like, the dog is barking, and you're going to be like, okay,
and let it go.
You can just listen to it and let it roll off of you. But if you're not really meditating and you're just mad because you can't have that quiet space,
why is the dog barking?
You're gonna get mad at
what's
the dog.
Wrong? You know, like why are you barking? Instead of like, just acknowledging it and letting it go.
So that's why meditation can be a really useful skill, because like inevitably things will make noises. Whether it's the neighbor or like we meditate in the office, so like people, while we were meditating, like people came into the kitchen to grab stuff. It's like you just let that happen, and it's good to actually experience other sounds like once you get the hang of meditation, because like then you can really experience meditation for like what it is supposed to be, and like to actually help you use that as a tool in your day-to-day, so that you're not responding to, or you're not like reacting negatively to things. We talked a little bit about that, I think, either last week or the week before.
Yeah.
As like, there are specific meditations that you can focus on to do that. But I think that makes experiences, like even if something quote-unquote negative happens, that you don't have to react to it with negativity, or you don't have to remember it with negativity.
Yeah.
You can just say, that did happen. Like, just objectively and state a fact, but not have, like, those negative feelings associated with it.
Because I don't know, I feel like, because I've been meditating for a long time, not always religiously, but
just when you need to.
When I need to, and I mean, it was more religiously when I was like in middle school and even into high school, which is a great time to like learn and focus on like, you know, like how to actually handle those and handle your emotions and your reactive state. Definitely when you're going through those changes.
Move the wheel.
And yeah, so I feel like I don't react as much to like these negative people and these negative experiences just because I've had so much experience not reacting and like just meditating and absorbing what's going on around me and not like responding to it.
Oh man, I need to meditate.
Yeah.
I had a really bad week. I had some negative experiences and
because then another thing too
to that.
There's other forms of just like the same idea of meditation. It's kind of like you could use yoga as meditation because you focus on a movement, you focus on breathing. It's the same aspect. It's not, you're not supposed to be thinking about what you're going to make for dinner or something like that. You should be focusing on what you're doing with your body and just that, right. Which is another reason why yoga and working out, if you're into strength training and stuff.
A little bit, even cooking or like running. Everything
that you do in your daily life could be meditative as long as you're focusing only on what you're doing.
On the action. And I think what you're trying to get to is this concept known as the flow state. So like once you get into an activity to that like meditative threshold, you like are so focused on it that it just like, you know, have you ever like felt that like if you've been I don't know, like painters get into it, like hunters can get into it. Maybe it's with music, but like when you're so focused on an activity, like I felt it when I've been running before, but like you're so focused on this activity that you are in that meditative state and then you're just like doing the activity and it's like it's a very strange experience, but it's also it feels good. And I think it's good for your brain to be there too.
I feel like I can do that sometimes when I'm like driving.
Well, that's something else. I forget like what the psychology word for it is, but where you like forget that you drove.
Oh, that's a whole different thing. Yeah, no. I know that one as well. But I'm talking about like the meditative state of just like focusing on driving. Just because
you use driving as like a stress relief too.
Yeah, and especially like if you're not necessarily driving an automatic car, but if you were to be driving like a manual car, it's like you're focusing on the gear shifts and everything like that. That could be meditative, not just like driving a car.
Yeah,
you know.
I could see where you could
forgetting
get
what you're doing
in the flow state with that. Yeah,
because it's kind of it is a sport, and like if you do it professionally, it could be
if you're just focused on the car.
Yeah.
And
like what you're doing with it.
Because I think technically, I mean, any activity you could technically get in the flow state as long as you're not like
I'm in a flow state of petting this animal,
thinking, and it's a very focused activity, but it's something that I just started looking into, so I can't speak too much on it, but I know that it's related to the meditative state and it's good for your cognitive function. So.
I mean, it's good to just focus, again, with like the experiences, it's good to focus on just what you're doing in that moment.
Be in the moment. I think that's what makes an experience good. Because you don't remember experiences that you weren't in the moment. Like when those fireworks went off in the house.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Were they thinking about their math exam?
Were they thinking about
a date that they were going to go on?
What the dishes they needed to do? Or
No. They weren't. They were thinking about the fireworks.
There's fireworks going off in the house.
And they were in the moment experiencing the fireworks. So, like, I think that we have more... We can cultivate more happiness when we're just in the moment, no matter what that is. Like, take for example, something that can be viewed both positively and negatively, like binge watching Netflix. All right.
Yeah.
It's an experience. You're watching something.
Yes.
Are you mindlessly watching something just to watch it? Or I don't think that you can, like, flow state because it's not, like, an action. But, like,
no.
but can you be in the moment and experience it? Like, if I were just by myself watching stuff, like, sometimes it's just, like, this is just mindlessly passing time.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was watching Sabrina with you, like, we were in the moment together, like, watching that. Like,
yeah.
It was, you know, like, we were experiencing it together.
And a lot of times, too, you definitely know as well, like, if you're experiencing something, if you have, like, I don't know, I guess the subconscious or brain works in weird ways. But, like, with Sabrina, or, like, if with a show that you're watching, if you're in the moment and you're, like, really interested in the show and you're intently watching it, like, it might show up, like, a part of it in, like, your dream or something, and it might come back to you later.
That's not great though, because then I have, like, nightmares,
which is where that comes from. But
but,
like, I mean, there's good experiences that happen in TV shows that do come back to you in dreams as well. I know I've had some, and then you wake up and you're like, oh, that was a weird dream. It's like this character from Grey's Anatomy, like, showed up in my dream and told me I had tuberculosis. I don't know.
That's, I think, from, like, binge watching too much, because you were watching a lot of Grey's Anatomy.
It's true.
So I'm not sure about that.
There's a lot of Grey's Anatomy.
I would err on the side of, like, don't binge watch things too much, because
where it just becomes your life, obviously.
But if you're gonna watch TV, like, care, like, be invested. I only watch shows that I really care about. Like, I don't want to mindlessly watch TV.
No, I don't want to just, like, put something
like
on the TV.
Fortune,
I never
Jeopardy.
Just put a show on TV to just, like, have it in the background.
Right.
That's something I don't do.
That. I listen to podcasts, I listen to music, or silence, but
yeah.
I'm trying to learn something if I have a moment to.
Mm-hmm. Or, like, enjoy it, which music, because you can't really necessarily multitask to the point where you can watch a TV show while you're doing a bunch of other things. Like,
I don't like that.
I want to be sitting down and, like, watching it fully enthralled. Like, I can hear everything that they're saying. I can see everything that they're saying.
Yeah.
Like, not even, like, doing the dishes. Like, if I need to do the dishes, I'd rather put on music or something that I don't need to fully pay attention to, something that I can just enjoy.
Well, that's, like, with music, there are certain music that I listen to when I work out, certain types of music that I listen to when I'm cleaning, and there's other music that, like, I want to sit down and, like, listen to it and fully experience it. So, yeah.
That happens a lot of times when I listen to new music, when I find a new song, I'm like, oh, I have to stop what I'm doing and, like, listen to this, because this is really good. And then, like, obviously when you hear it, you know, multiple other times, then it's not as...
Then you can work out to it or clean to it.
You can choose what you want to do to that particular song. But, like, when you first hear a song or something like that, then it's a different experience. I don't know. And, like, podcasts, I feel like I couldn't really watch or listen to a podcast while I'm cleaning, maybe. Unless it was, like, to do with cleaning and, like, organization. Then I could do that. But I'm kind of, like... I don't know. I feel like the only time I could do that is maybe, like, when I'm driving, when you're kind of doing, like, a quote-unquote mindless activity.
Yeah. I mean, different people like different things. Like, I like listening to podcasts when I'm cleaning. I can get into it, and I prefer music when I'm driving. Because when I'm driving, I don't want to get distracted by the podcast, but when I'm cleaning, it's like I'm not going to, like, crash into anything. If I, like, take a second.
Well, I hope you're not just getting distracted by a podcast to where you're like, oh my gosh, and drives off the road.
It's just, like, more mentally, like, learning and stuff, and I prefer to, like, have more fun in the car and, like, sing and enjoy the beat and stuff. But if I'm cleaning, I would say that I prefer to listen to music, but sometimes I want to be more, I don't know, productive with what I'm listening to.
That's probably...
So I'll listen to podcasts and stuff, but, like, if there's a part of the podcast where I'm like, oh, that's really interesting, then I can, like, take a second and just listen to that part.
Cleaning is also kind of very meditative for me. It's something that I enjoy to do, so that might be why my brain doesn't, like... I don't want to do another activity while I'm doing something that is very, like, flow state to me.
Whereas I don't like to clean, but I love to learn, so if I'm, like... doing something that I love to do on top of it as like an incentive, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that through in my little noggin.
Yeah, like, now we're like understanding each other.
So
different people, different things, but I think the point is just that like experiences, like you derive the happiness that you want to see from those experiences. Like right now I'm really enjoying all these keto podcasts and interviews.
Yeah.
Because I'm deriving a lot of like, I enjoy learning. So I'm like really happy to do that. It was funny because Daniel came up to me, I think it was last week, and I was listening to one of these podcasts, and he was like, when are you gonna get tired of like listening to these? Because you've been listening to them for like 2 weeks straight. Like it's the only like when I turn on my iPod to like listen to something, I'm like, it's a keto interview, it's a keto podcast, because I've just got into it and I'm learning more about like
you have a lot to learn about it.
Yeah, and there's more stuff that they're discovering each and every day. So like as they're going through some of these interviews with like researchers and doctors and stuff, like they're on the cutting edge of research, and so when they're asking these questions, they're like, well, we're conducting these clinical trials, but they're not published yet. Like this is like up and coming stuff, and so it's really interesting. But he was like, are you gonna get tired of this? And I'm like, well, do you get tired of watching wrestling or like war movies or playing your video game? And he was like, well, after a while I will, but like I enjoy doing those things in the moment. And I'm like, yeah, I'll listen to these podcasts in like hour segments and be doing other stuff. So I might listen to like one a day and, you know, be cleaning or like in between things. And I'm like, yeah, it's like that. I'm not going to listen to them, like, constantly, because that would be tiring.
And years, too.
Or I'll move on to a different subject in the next couple weeks. But, like, right now, this is what my focus is. I'm trying to learn about this. And I really enjoy learning. Like,
it's
like
when you're learning a new
subject.
It's a whole new...
Yeah. And it's like, it's the same thing for people who just love to play video games. I know it's weird, but you know, some people love like working out, and they can be in the gym for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
Like we'll be in there, I'll enjoy it up to a certain point, and then I'm like, okay, you know, done. But like, or mine's more like music. I love playing music.
Yeah.
And singing, and I can play for hours and hours and hours.
Sing all day.
And then lose my voice, but like
yeah.
I could, like once I get into that flow state or whatever, I'm working on writing a new song or something, like I really get into it, and then I just want to keep going and not, like never stop, and I won't, because it's really enjoyable. So I enjoy learning, and then up to a certain point, and then I'm like, okay, now I actually have to like go do the thing, and I'm really excited to go do the thing.
Yeah.
Like learning about like which exercises I should do or what kind of foods I should be eating. So then I'm like, well, now I'm going to go cook some food, and I'm going to really enjoy that. Like I learned about it and I did it, and now I'm experiencing it. So I don't know. That's a way to frame it. It's like if you do like step 1, step 2, step 3, but
and people, I mean, everybody enjoys different things and enjoys different, like some people's experiences might be going out and drinking with your friends, and that might be what you're super into, or it might be like going bowling with your family or something. That might be your thing. Again. Yeah, we do. And it just like
it's been a while.
It's always different things, or like game night, or like playing a video game with your significant other or your best friend or something.
Taking the dog for a walk.
Like that could be your thing, like your happy moment, whether you do that every day or once a week or once a month.
Look at this happy moment. I'm looking at the cat right now, and her face is just like she was like falling asleep. She's just like super happy.
She's content.
I feel happiness at like the cat's happiness. Oh,
it's like babies and animals.
I know, they're so cute.
You look at them and you can't not be happy. Oh,
what a big yawn.
So cute.
I couldn't have got through law school without this cat.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
She's just chirping at us. Like,
oh,
really
so
quietly.
She's like, I don't know if I want to be part of your podcast, but...
Oh my goodness. She's doing
such a
the
good
quiet
cat.
little meows, but...
So experiences can be, like, net positive or negative, but, like, how we respond to them is, like, what we're going to remember about them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why experiences tend to be better on the happiness rung than things like items and stuff.
But also subconsciously your brain holds on to the happy moments more than the negative ones as
Hence the
well.
nostalgia.
Yeah, it's like you don't look back on this really negative thing that happened 50 years ago. It's like, I mean, some things.
Yeah, there's
Roger
some
had
traumatic things.
His thing was very traumatic, apparently. He lost a race right after his Chevelle was out of the shop.
Forget
He
this.
goes, a cougar drove by us, and he goes, I lost to a cougar back in the day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like one race back in the day. He's like, I would have won too. My car was just out of the shop and it wasn't warmed up. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
See, that's the stories that, like, old people...
It's like this one really negative thing, but I'm sure it was like a great experience.
Yeah, because he raced.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure that was fun in the
like,
moment. But
I could have beat him though, you know? Like,
yeah.
It's like those little
He's such
things.
a dad.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Hello, Zoe.
She's like, I'm ready for dinner.
Yeah, it's true. I do need to feed you.
She's like,
I'm
and
sorry.
bed.
Yeah, it's getting late.
It is. It's been quite the Easter.
Yeah. A decent experience.
We worked out.
Yeah, that was good. It was good to work out.
It felt good.
Good experience.
Good experience.
But then my tummy hurt afterward.
Mm-hmm. I'm
Which wasn't
definitely,
great.
my arms are going to be sore tomorrow, but it's a good experience.
It's a good burn. A real good
really
burn.
good burn.
Yeah. So, I mean, experiences are number 2 for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're number 2. and the reason being, like, we'll get to all, like, the good parts of experiences, like those people and that kind of thing. And what I talked about, like, learning, that's actually self-improvement. So, yeah, I was, like, experiencing things, but there's self-improvement and there's, like, connection with other people. And we'll get to those in the next coming weeks, but, like, you can see kernels of why experience might be a little bit better than stuff, but why it's still not, like, the best. So, and speaking of self-improvement, unless you have, like, a final comment.
No.
No? We good on experiences?
Zoe had to say something.
Yeah. Zoe, you have a final word?
Wow.
No? You good?
She just readjusted herself. I'm like, I'm a princess.
Well,
No.
she is. My cat is a princess. So please join us next week as we discuss the next rung in our ladder of happiness, and that is self-improvement. So we'll see why self-improvement brings more happiness to our lives than, like, stuff or experiences by themselves.
If you like what we're doing here, please consider becoming a supporter of the show. The Fireside Chat podcast is part of a new entertainment hub called The Fox Hollow. We have shows about money, gaming, music, legal comedy, and more on YouTube, and we post new Fireside Chat episodes every Monday. If you'd like to ask a question or submit a public comment to be shared on the podcast, please email us at thefoxhollowhub@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support the podcast, please become a patron by donating at patreon.com/thefoxhollow, linked in the description below. You can follow us on Instagram at thefoxhollow.yt. And if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss another podcast or video.
If you haven't checked out Robinhood yet, you definitely should. Robinhood is an online investing and banking app. They give the power back to the people by not charging fees or commissions when you go to buy and sell stocks. Use this referral code to get started. share.robinhood.com/SCHEYLG7 and you'll receive 1 free share of a random stock. And you have the chance to win some big name investments like Apple and Berkshire Hathaway. By using this referral code, both you, the listener, and myself will receive a random share of stock. This is a great way to give back to the show while also getting a gift in return. We post new podcasts on Mondays and videos on Fridays. Thank you so much for listening and see you next week. Bye!